coalition. You are getting a
Okay.
coalition. You are getting upper class people. And you're getting young people. So I want to dig more into the data, but right now, this is a stunning, it's a massive upset. Honestly, you could call this one of the biggest upsets in American political history. I think I'm going to put it in there. Cuomo ran an awful campaign. I don't, as much as I'm going to credit Zoran, Cuomo ran an atrocious campaign, the laziest campaign I've ever seen. But this is still a monumental showing.
What? Oh, go ahead, Crystal.
I was just going to ask about the attacks on Zoran, accusing him of being an anti-Semite, and what it means. This very clear review of that tactic, which I think in any year now in New York City, even coming to the expert, would likely have been pretty successful. Would have been a very difficult thing to overcome.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, if you said a candidate who is pro-Palestine, openly pro-Palestine, and had been an anti-Zionist, does not identify like that.
And is a Muslim.
Yeah, and is a Muslim. If you took all these things and 5 years ago you would have said no way, and now he has run up a huge margin in a very diverse city. The Israel lobby must be absolutely. I don't know what's going through your head because you don't see rebukes quite like this very often in politics.
Do you remember the Jessica Ramos story from 2014? During the 2014 Gaza war, Jessica Ramos, who has gone full circle, she went left, and now she's endorsed Andrew Cuomo, and then running, and she got 0.4%, I think, the first round. She said, there's a New York Post headline, one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Maybe the New York Daily News, it says, lawmaker expresses sympathy for people in Gaza. That was the headline. No context needed. That was a scandalous. It was understood to be a scandalous thing. She had to apologize because she wrote a Facebook post that said, like, it's sad that so many people are getting bombed.
I remember that 2014 summer very well because the entire Democratic establishment lined up with Israel. Literally, you had massive rallies. Every so-called progressive Democrat is there cheering on Israel, cheering on the bombardment, and the shift from there is seismic. And we know the generational shift is happening. That has been ongoing. But now you have an election like this one. You see, it's bigger. It's actually bigger. So I am really, as someone who thinks highly of Zoran's political talent and saw him for a long time going places, to see this kind of result and what other new results come in, where are we at right now?
Yeah, so here, Ross, this is Adam Carlson, pollster Adam Carlson, who has said, stick a fork in it. Zoran Mamdani will win the first round of the Democratic primary for New York City and mayor. So we have full support, period.
That's it. So it's not. That's finished.
Right, because he's not going to win Brad Landley's vote.
Right. So I'm looking at this map right now. Zoran won 3 out of 5 boroughs.
Wow.
So, Ross, is this similar to an AOC moment where someone like this wins and then the squad comes afterwards and spreads across the country to other races? Or do you view this more as a very unique race in a vacuum?
What's funny is this race is far more impressive than AOC's race. But I don't know if it's going to be as influential. I don't know yet. I can see Zoran being turned into a boogeyman because he's Muslim, because he's openly socialist, even in a way AOC is not. I can see Democrats around America, some excited and some feeling consternation. I don't know. 2018 was sort of the height of resistance, blue wave politics. I actually do not know. I think Zoran is undoubtedly a leader on the left. He might be a leader when this is all said and done, leading the largest city in America if he wins the general election.
That's really
I think though, how other Democrats approach it is going to be fascinating. Some are going to be very excited to embrace it. Some are going to want to run the other way. It's going to be more complicated. But the scale this race was waged on is like a statewide race. New York City is larger than most states in America.
Right.
It's a very diverse city. It's ethnically diverse, religiously diverse, politically diverse too. It's not just all lefties. It's a very complicated city. And so for someone to win and win so convincingly, to come from behind, tomorrow I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of explanations from sort of the center. They're going to say this, that, but it will. I think it's falling flat because turnout was big.
What is this Democrat?
Oh,
yeah.
I was just going to say, there's never been a Muslim mayor of New York City. There's never been a socialist. Some people have likened him to LaGuardia. You know, can you spell out, do you think that there are parallels with LaGuardia is considered one of the best mayors of New York City of all time?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly LaGuardia
is sort of the progressive ideal of big city mayors. Now LaGuardia wasn't as a come-from-behind candidate Zoran was. LaGuardia was a liberal Republican running against the Democratic machine, but he'd been a popular congressman. He'd been kind of building up operation for years. I mean, Zoran Mamdani was mostly unknown as recently as 5 to 6 months ago, and is now poised to become the mayor of America's largest city. This is no offense to Chicago or to Boston.
You cannot avoid getting the
thing. Is a massive place, and so I think LaGuardia is a parallel. You have the sewer socialist mayor in the early 20th century, the mayors of Milwaukee were socialists. I think Zoran is coming from a good government reform model, delivering public services, delivering public goods. He's not running against capitalism, mostly because mayors cannot end capitalism. It's a very economics first campaign, and it's a good. I think it's a good message for all Democrats.
You can take out Wall Street. That would strike a blow at capitalism.
They can pay their parking tickets.
Good try.
This brings up a question I want to ask, which is, you often see from the primaries to the general election the pivot to the center. How do you expect Zoran, you followed his campaign so closely, you talked to him, how do you expect him to handle now actually going citywide and having people, not just in a primary?
And let me piggyback onto that. What do you think this does to Cuomo running against him?
I was very sure before this night that Cuomo was running in the general election as an independent with a massive super PAC behind him. That may still happen, but this is a convincing victory for Zoran. This is a large victory. This is not 2 points. This is very big. So for Cuomo, it's going to be harder to pivot into being the super PAC candidate. Now, I think Zoran is going to have to do outreach to a lot of different interest groups, communities that he did less of in the primary, because he's going to be mayor, even though he ran against the power elite sought to destroy him. You're mayor of New York City. You're going to have to take meetings with financiers, with developers. It will happen. So the pivot might not mean any new policy or kind of any rhetorical shift necessarily, but I think he's someone, he's very charismatic. He likes to deal with people. He will talk to anyone. So I expect there to be significant outreach to a lot of the groups that have been most hostile to him. I think he's smart enough to try to attempt as big attempt as possible. But look, there are forces in the city that are going to want to destroy him and destroy his mayoralty. That is a fact. And they tried with de Blasio, and this is much bigger than de Blasio was a center-left progressive Democrat who came out of the political establishment. This is something very different. So these hedge fund finance types, they will think of ways to destroy him. Zoran might still have breakfast with that.
Ross, it was partly
ways like they would destroy him. Like, what could they do to him as mayor?
Well, and it was partly Cuomo who was trying to destroy de Blasio. I mean, I remember the battles they were having.
Yeah, so Cuomo, absolutely. I think they're going to appeal to Kathy Hochul. Hochul is a centrist Democrat. I think they're going to look to Hochul to kind of be a check on Zoran if he's mayor. Look, I think the super PAC failed miserably, but they can always spend more money. And when you're mayor, perhaps those attacks land differently. There's a media apparatus that is depending on what outlet very hostile to Zoran. The New York Times, the New York Post editorial boards were very anti-Zoran. So they're using sort of media establishment that's against him. Now, younger journalists, media types like him. So I think there's a generational divide where older media is opposed younger media in favor. He will have a lot of challenges if he becomes mayor, and I do expect these forces to work against him.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see how he deals with that, how he works with them.
Well, and Ryan and Ross, either one of you guys can reflect on this. It's very fraught for the left because anytime you have a leftist who does a poor job of governing, it's an indictment of the entire left. If you have a centrist who fails at governing, that was just one guy.
Like Eric Adams.
Or Andrew Cuomo.
Or Andrew Cuomo.
Also, if you have a leftist who is good at governing, like Michelle Wu in Boston, you never hear about it again.
Let's see the thing. Everyone with Zoran, everyone was like Brandon Johnson. I see this in wait a second. There's a progressive Elizabeth Warren acolyte governing Boston with a 61% approval rating. Why can't Zoran be Michelle Wu? In fact, I think there are real parallels there. Zoran is a competent person. He's very bright. I think he's going to hire very good people as mayor. I think he's going to attempt to sort of reformist, good government type administration. Look, it's important to do the progressive leftist policies, the things he ran on. But good government and anti-corruption is very important here. Because Eric Adams is so corrupt, it's going to be very important for Zoran to not be embroiled in any scandals because he will go down fast if that happens. He can stay clear and have a very clean administration that's going to go a long way. And I think he will.
Are you sad to see you gonna jump?
Well, we're going to let Ross go. If you have any more questions, we're going to Andrew Epstein, communications director for
Okay, great.
join us in a second. Do you have a wrap-up question for Ross?
I do have a wrap-up for Ross, which is, aren't you going to miss Eric Adams' content creation?
He's a great content creator, and he's running in the general election, so he's going to be content creating through November. And it's very interesting right now, because Cuomo is down so much, Eric Adams, who is left for dead, he's going to try to be a power elite candidate. He's going to go to these financiers, the Bill Ackmans of the world, the Michael Bloomberg. You know what? Well, this guy blew it. Come back to me. Support me. So look out for that too.
Interesting.
Ross.
Thank you.
Oh,
Something
to look forward to. I column for New York Magazine, my Substack, Ross Barkin, Political Currents. Look on the Substack, subscribe to it. Lots of mayoral race writing to come.
Yeah, Ross, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment. It really helps out the show.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at BreakingPoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show helps out with the future of independent media. BreakingPoints.com.
Pain and power, inseparable.
Let's get another one, shall we? Jim Cramer says, we're done. It's over. Having trouble finding a good one.
Dark power, mine to claim.
A little more multicast chance, I guess. Rogan is busted. Today I predicted all of it.
York City mayoral race. As a reminder, Griffin and Ryan will be in New York City tonight at the Zoran Mamdani election night watch party. So hopefully we're going to be able to grab Zoran. We've got some other people that we're going to be able to talk to that I think you're going to be excited about. Emily and I are going to be here at home, sort of heading that live stream or whatever, playing quarterback on that live stream so that they can go and grab people. And we're also going to cover whatever news comes out today, because God knows by tonight what state of the world we're going to be in. So that's going to kick off at 8:30. Thank you so much to the premium subscribers who made this possible, to do an extra show today. Obviously costs to be able to travel and get the right equipment and get the setup and all of that sort of stuff. So really, really appreciate you guys if you all can support us at breakingpoints.com. That's where you can also become a premium subscriber and get all the goodies that entails. So all of that being said, Zoran Mamdani and Brad Lander, who have cross-endorsed each other. Lander is another local elected official who's progressive, has a close alliance with AOC. So they cross-endorsed each other. It's also significant because Lander is the highest Jewish elected official in the city.
Highest
and
Jewish?
The fact that a core strategy of the Cuomo campaign has been to smear Zoran as an anti-Semite. That cross-endorsement and, plan to say, like, okay, my supporters, you need to rank Zoran, and Zoran supporters need to rank Brad Lander. That has been, I think, very significant, very important to his campaign. So the two of them went on Colbert last night together, and lo and behold, Zoran faced questions from Stephen Colbert exactly along these lines of basically, are you an anti-Semite or not? Let's go ahead and take a listen to how he responded.
Mr. Mamdani, same question. Does the state of Israel have the right to exist?
Yes, like all nations, I believe it has a right to exist and a responsibility also to uphold them.
Okay, well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, is that there are many people in New York, even people who would support your candidacy otherwise, who don't want to support you because of the Jewish...
When you say let's talk about the elephant in the room and you talk about anything other than Gaza, you're a horrible person.
This country, the same thing in New York, which is the largest Jewish population of any city other than Tel Aviv in the whole world. And they are worried, they're very upset by some of the things that you've said in the past, and they're afraid that your mayorship would actually lead to increased strength and calm. They believe that would be more price. What do you say to those New Yorkers who are afraid that you wouldn't be their mayor, that you wouldn't protect them?
I know where that fear is coming from. It's a fear that is based upon the horrific attacks we see in Washington, D.C., in Boulder, Colorado. It's
all the way from Jews in other places to today.
And it's a fear that I hear also from New York themselves. Just a few days after the horrific war of October 7th, a friend of mine told me about how he went to the synagogue for Shabbat services, and he heard the door open behind him, and a tremor went up his spine as he turned around not knowing who was there and what they meant. I spoke to a Jewish man in Williamsburg just months ago who told me that the door he left unlocked for decades is now one that he locks. And ultimately, this is because we're seeing a crisis of anti-Semitism. And that's why at the heart of my proposal for Department of Community Safety is a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. Because to your point, anti-Semitism is not simply something that we should talk about, it's something that we have to tackle. We have to make clear there's no room for it in this city, in this country, in this world.
And no justification for violence of any kind?
No, there's no room for violence.
I'm a proud Jewish New Yorker, raising 2 Jewish kids here is the joy of my life. I'm the highest ranking Jewish elected official in New York City government. I'm nervous about rising anti-Semitism, and also I believe in the humanity and the human rights of Palestinians, and I know that it is possible. I support that vision of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state, but I hate what the Netanyahu government is doing in Gaza. And I've been saying that a long time. And look, mayor is going to be responsible for what happens in the Middle East, but there is something quite remarkable about a Jewish New Yorker and a Muslim New Yorker coming together to say, here's how we protect all New Yorkers, Jewish New Yorkers and Muslim New Yorkers are not going to be divided from each other. We build a city where you have affordable housing and good schools and safe neighborhoods for everyone.
So, Sagar, I'm interested for your reaction. I mean, it's just preposterous to me that Israel and this, smear of Zoran as an anti-Semite has become so central in this campaign. I almost can't blame, though, Colbert for asking him about it, because Cuomo has put it front and center. And to be honest, I thought that answer from Zoran was fantastic. I mean, classic, first he connects on an emotional level with these personal stories, and then he's like, and that's why here's my policy. And you're sitting there next to Brad Lander, who then comes in after Zoran speaks and is like, you know, and defends him, and in a way that I think also was, you know, was very powerful. So I actually think that moment probably, listen, I mean, the cake is probably baked at this point anyway, but I actually think that moment ends up serving him because he handled it so well. You hear the audience with him. You've got Brad Lander there to also sort of validate what he's saying. And so to me, it was actually a positive opportunity that he handled quite well here going into Election Day.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess for me, it's just so tiresome that the New York City... Look, I don't live in New York. I'm not a New Yorker. New Yorkers, you do what you want. But my point is, it's like, look, the last thing that I honestly care about from the mayor's point of view is their views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You know, I've lived here and I actually have no idea what my own personal mayor's views are on various foreign conflicts, and I don't really care. For me, it's about crosswalks, trash collection, property taxes.
You didn't vote on which foreign country they're going to visit first?
I could care less. I really, you know, I mean, I live here, or I used to live here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, allegedly, supposedly somebody with a very powerful mayor, especially with home rule and all of that. I never once was like, hey, Mayor Bowser, what are your views on Ghana? Even though she's spending plenty of time on those foreign
trips. And you promised
you
will go to Israel.
I was like,
when? How many times?
I was like, can you do something about crime? And trash collection is really annoying, and the homeless problem is really out of control, and there's too many drug addicts that are around the city. That's literally it. That's all I care about. And so just the fact that everybody and all of us are like supposed to care so much, I guess you know, in a certain sense, I understand that this whole talking point like, oh, New York is the largest Jewish population. But again, you know, we're conflating this idea that the Jews of New York, how the state of Israel is like directly, you know, and their views on that topic comports to the policy of their daily life in wherever they Brooklyn, wherever they happen to live. So
it also,
it's just preposterous.
It also erases the fact that Zoran actually has a lot of Jewish support. I mean, Brad Lander is one very high-profile example of this coalition that they have formed together. And this is also something that's interesting about ranked choice voting, is it allows the possibility of these sort of cross-endorsements. Michael Blake and Zoran have also cross-endorsed. So that's one thing that, you know, creates interesting possibilities in ranked choice voting. You know, something else that Brad Lander said is he was like, listen, I don't think that your views on Israel should, you know, necessarily be central to New York City mayoral race. However, look, there is something powerful about this city having this alliance between, you know, a prominent Jewish official and a prominent Muslim official. Like, that is actually a really positive and a really beautiful thing, which I thought, again, was like a good response to the question. But it is crazy the way that they've made this central and put it, you know, tried to persuade people that he hates Jews and it's going to be bad for Jewish people. I mean, some of the deranged things that I've seen out there are truly, truly wild. But in reality, there is no official that has, Zoran actually gets second highest Jewish support in the entire race. So what is anti-Semitic is to expect that every single Jewish voter is going to approach these questions in the same way and have the same views. What is anti-Semitic is to force every Jewish person to ally with the state that is currently committing a genocide and act like that represents every Jew in the city of New York or around the world. So in any case, that has been very central. In terms of where the polls are, there's been a mixed bag, but we did get one poll here, you know, going right into Election Day that we mentioned yesterday from Emerson. We put this up on the screen. This is B2, that has Zoran winning. So it has him. This is after you do all the ranked choice and the this and the that and whatever. And at the end, in the final round, it has Zoran at 52% and Cuomo at 48%. Let's put the demographic split up here on the screen because this is also very interesting. You have Zoran winning overall and surging, by the way. The way he has come from behind has been extraordinary. He wins significantly among white voters. Cuomo's strongest base of support is among black voters. Cuomo wins Hispanic voters 60-40. And Zoran romps among Asian voters 79-21. Now, this is interesting. Zoran does better with men than with women. Cuomo narrowly wins women. Zoran wins a little bit by a larger margin among men. Zoran does very well among college-educated. Cuomo's base is among non-college educated. The generational divide here is also extraordinary. You have people under the age of 50. Zoran wins 67-33. Cuomo wins 50 to 59, and you've got, 60 plus also very much in the Cuomo camp. Actually, apparently Cuomo's strongest age demographic is actually 50 to 59, which is kind of interesting. So in any case, you've got this sort of like young, college-educated, white and Asian bro-dominated coalition for Zoran. And then for Cuomo, you have his base is sort of like older black voters. And as we've been looking at the early voting numbers, so far, they do look to be they look to be much more energy behind Zoran. The areas of the city, in particular, areas of Brooklyn where he is absolutely the strongest, have been showing up in droves. Young people have been showing up in a way that, is highly unusual, if not unprecedented, for early voting. And one other thing that people are pointing to, Sagar, is the heat in the city today is unbelievable. Griffin was just texting us, it's supposed to be like 114 in the Bronx and Staten Island being the two boroughs that are strongest for Cuomo. So, given that his base, Zoran is almost certainly ahead in the early vote, which is pretty impressive. He has a massive number of volunteers. Cuomo really has to depend on strong election day turnout, and his base is more elderly. That's why the heat can potentially come into play. But listen, that's one poll. Most of the polls have shown Cuomo winning. Some of them have shown him winning by, as much as 10 points. So this is really, it's anybody's game. It could truly go either way at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and what's fascinating to me is for Cuomo is the fact that it's even this close is honestly humiliating. And actually, one of his former advisors did a very good job of summing it up. Let's put B3, please, up on the screen. Again, I reiterate, this is a guy who used to work for Andrew Cuomo. A grim and joyless campaign, as befits a battle for a prize never won. One long view, disdain, and contempt as a trifle that only lesser men would debase themselves to seek. Victory, if it comes at all, will be bandaged with tinny fanfare, strident gloat, to muffle the voice at the center that won't stop whispering, I am hollow. Brutal.
Man.
I mean, that is savage. This is Howard Glazer.
Cuomo triggered an existential crisis for this dude.
Hey, listen, honestly, it's poetic. That's well written. I could never come up with something like that, just off the top of my head. But it does demonstrate, the real problems that they have. I will say a couple of things for Zoran. First of all, obviously he's run a decent campaign. I mean,
he's run an excellent campaign.
He's run a good campaign.
No denying
He's got a lot of excitement, a lot of lower propensity voters. Use social media, podcasting, etc., to really get his message out there. Got a lot of progressives to endorse him. So there's that. But second, it's equally a tale of the failure of the New York Democratic establishment, because the New York Democratic establishment correctly kicked Andrew Cuomo out of office over Me Too, but really what they should have kicked him out for was his handling of COVID.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. This guy has blood on his hands of elderly people because of his policies.
And then lied about it.
Right. And all of this is confirmed, by his own government, basically, at the time. And yet they still allowed him to,